So I made a lot of progress since last time I checked in. I'll go through and share it with you. So when you spawn, I currently have it so that it spawns 10 rooms, top to bottom, and the cube is still currently in the level as it is. I'm going to probably move that so that that spawns on load as well, just so when the scene is by itself, there's just a manager and it spits everything out. It's just kind of compact that way. So when I boot into the level, you can see that my rooms are working perfectly nice now. And if I scroll out, you can see I've got the 10 rooms, all with fairly randomly placed doors. A lot of them tend to kind of end up in similar spots, and I think the mechanic with the doors is probably going to make that a little bit more interesting. I haven't quite worked out exactly how I'm going to smooth that out. Maybe I'll try and make it a little bit more difficult. Maybe I could add some kind of flag that rapidly changes the next position of the door, so it's not just a straight drop all the way down, because it is quite simple. Another thing I could look at doing is just making the levels wider and the doors smaller. So I could play around with the values. I have control of all this stuff in the room manager itself. When you see I click on the room manager here, I can show the amount of rooms that I'm going to spawn at the start of the level, just so that there's a good amount of rooms already. And then in the room manager from there, once the game's actually started, I've got my 10 rooms here. Each room has the room width and the door size, so I can, and the room height as well. So I can control that stuff later down the line. And then if I want to change like the camera position and allow for more room in horizontally and make the game a little bit bigger in scale, I can do that pretty easily, which is great. Breaking this down a little bit more, I've also got access to the walls, floor, and door scripts for each object that makes up each room. So I've got room for the door. I haven't begun working in this area yet, but I've got the spot for it ready to go. I've got the floor, which this script just creates the two objects that make up the floor here. So as you can see here, I've got floor 1 and floor 2. And I have a reference to those two in case I want to swap out materials, or maybe give it a prefab game object in case I want to make it textured in a certain way, or change the shape, or whatever I want to do later down the line. I have access to it to make those changes. And again, same with the walls. I've got the left wall, the right wall, and those are the objects that make up each one. I might think about making a back panel as well, just so I don't have the skybox. I've changed it just to this kind of dark blue color at the moment, but I might add I probably am going to add a back wall as well. And then maybe I can texture it and maybe add the room number on the back wall. I don't know, there's things that I can do with that, so that's not a terrible idea. If you saw my last Devlog video, you would have noticed that the rooms did not look like this. What helped me get through to making sure that the rooms spawned exactly how I wanted them to was actually using some unit tests. I'm using the Unity testing framework. I followed a tutorial by Infallible Code. I will link the video down in the bottom description below. If you're interested in learning more about the Unity testing framework, I'm using it in conjunction with XUnit, which is just a testing framework that I'm familiar with in C#, but it's quite nice to be able to rely on your code being properly tested, so I can see exactly what's it's doing, because it's doing exactly what I'm expecting it to do because of my unit tests. Again, if you're interested in learning more about unit tests, I'll link that video in the description. Please do check it out. If you're having any issues with a problem or debugging a problem, unit tests are really good to be able to rely on. They also make your code look quite neat. I'm a big fan of them. Unity, interestingly, has play mode tests and edit mode tests. I'm just using the edit mode tests at the moment. I haven't really looked into properly how to use the play mode tests. If I feel like there's something I want to test in the future using play mode tests, I'll probably have a look at it. But for now, just edit mode tests. I'm just doing it on my floor generator specifically because of the problem I was having, that I wanted to try and work out exactly where the problem was coming from, and kind of starting from the top and working my way deeper into the code base and working out where the problem was quite nice. And lastly, I've added the input system, the new Unity input system. I say new, it's not necessarily new. I think it's a couple years old now, but it's new to me. A little bit unfamiliar with how it worked. I followed a tutorial by Samyam. Please do go check her channel out as well. I'll link the video I watched down in the description. She has a lot of videos on the Unity input system, as well as many other tutorials on all sorts of topics. Quite helpful. Please go check it out. Yeah, an issue that I've thought about that's come up with the design of my game is that I can, in theory, click on the door and the cube will kind of teleport to where it is. At the moment, there's a little bit of a delay happening. That's just on the how I've set up the input system. I do plan on fixing that too. But because I have it set one-to-one with the player's finger, you can just kind of click on where the door is and it will like teleport to it. I'm thinking about smoothing this out somehow. I'll go into a little bit more detail when I work out exactly what I'm going to do, but that is something that's come up in the design of my game. So a great fix for the issue I was having with the movement. Instead of setting the position of the cube to be directly where my finger is, I've decided to use vector3.moveTowards, which basically makes it so that the cube will move towards the position of my finger, and I'm using a speed variable to kind of offset that and have this delay effect. I think it works quite nicely. Alright, so moving on to the camera. This one's going to be an interesting one. I need to kind of think about it a little bit on how I'm going to handle the player possibly falling too far and going off camera and what's going to happen in that sense. I'm thinking of having this more dynamic look where when the player is further down, there's like a speed up that happens as the camera is moving up, because the camera is going to be constantly moving up. But I want to make it so that the camera moves up a little bit quicker when you're towards the bottom and a little bit slower when you're towards the top. That gives the player a little bit of grace on the top and a little bit of, it kind of like stops them from falling off the bottom of the screen. Because it's kind of annoying when you play these kinds of games where you fall off the bottom of the screen and then you're just kind of waiting for the camera to come back up so you can keep going anyway. So I want to try and eliminate that a little bit. We'll see how it goes. So in front of me here, I got this little sketch that I quickly threw together. Basically what I'm saying is that when the player is towards the top of the screen up here, I want to make it so that the camera is, say, moving at I guess like 10% of the speed, and then when it's here it's going to be moving a lot quicker, say 100. Probably not going to be exactly like this. I need to work out the calculation and how that's going to work, but essentially like whatever the speed is, it's going to be moving at 10% of that speed, and when it's at the bottom it's going to be moving at 100% of that speed. Probably the other way around probably would make more sense, but essentially yeah, when it's here it's moving down a lot quicker than when it's here. That's what I'm going for. We'll see how that goes. Alright, so I've worked out the camera system. It's working well. I think it's pretty good how it is. I'll go through it quickly with how it actually works. So it was very, very straightforward. This is my script for it here. I just have a reference to the player and a reference to the camera. I don't need that line anymore, and I don't need that line anymore, and some of this could probably get simplified. Let's quickly do this and I'll show you what it does. I don't need to care about the width, and I don't care about the near clipping plane. I did that just for testing. So what happens is I get the player's position, and then I'm getting a reference to the screen height in world position, in like a world position. So that being the top of the screen in world position where that is currently, and that's obviously changing as the camera is transforming downwards. Pretty easy. So I'm getting that position, and then I am minusing it from the player's current position, and then I am getting the absolute of that plus the speed, which I'm going to make variable as the player goes further down. I'll increase it by an amount. I haven't worked out the right balance for that yet. We'll get there. It could be something as small as 0.25 or something like that per room, or maybe per 5 rooms. We'll see how we go. So yeah, that amount plus the speed, get the absolute out of it because we're going downwards, so we're getting negative transforms, so I didn't want to end up with weird math. So absolute of it, and yeah, vector 3 down, very, very straightforward. It was pretty easy to get through that one. I'm pretty happy with the result. Let's go through that. So now I've got this kind of like buffer. Whoa. Do I? Maybe I broke it. Okay, I got to the bottom of my bug. I don't know why, but apparently having camera.near clipping plane on the z-axis for some reason changes this value here, even though I'm not using the z-axis at all. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but when getting the screen point, make sure you have the near clipping plane on the camera. Otherwise, it just freaks out. But I'll show you that working right now. Here we go. So you have a little bit of a buffer to try and get through a room, and then it slows down and you would lose. I still need to obviously implement the actual death feature, but the idea is that whenever the player is essentially like off the screen point, like is greater than the size of the screen, I'll trigger the death to happen. But as you can see, the further down you go, the quicker the camera moves. It's still not quite quick enough to like stop the player from falling off the bottom of the screen. So there's definitely some more work that needs to happen here, but this is definitely a good starting point, and that first room is quite difficult. I still need to look at that initial oh man, there's like a, let's see if I can get to the bottom of that right now. Let's have a look. So I'm having an issue on the touch controls that where it takes, there you go, B hold time. Set that to 0 and see what happens. Or maybe just in case it needs a buffer of some kind. Alright, let's reset my script. That's a lot better. A lot better. Okay, cool. So that fixed that. That was quite easy. It feels a little funky at the moment. But yeah, there we go. So again, there's some smoothing that also needs to happen on the translate. It's quite jumpy. Maybe there's some stuff I can look into to try and get this working a little bit smoother so it's not so jumpy like that. But the raw mechanics there, and it's starting to look pretty good. So I'd say that's a win.
Hey guys, Future Editing Dean here. I just realized I didn't really record an outro for this video, so I thought I'd come back and fix that up. I just want to say thanks for watching. If you guys ended up sticking through the video, it's been a pretty long one and I covered quite a few things here. Please leave a comment down below if you have any feedback for me. I'm just trying to kind of piece these together and work out the best way of recording them. So I know the quality of them is suffering a little bit. I'm trying to slowly increase that as we get through. So bear with me, and hopefully we can increase the quality as we get further into this. Please leave a like and subscribe for more of this type of content. I'm planning on slowly releasing more of these and getting through this project, and there'll be a lot more to come. Planning on doing another project directly after this, so lots and more things to look into. So yeah, thanks for dropping by. See you next time.